The UK economy has experienced various ups and downs over the past few decades. Events such as the financial crises of 2008, the Brexit saga, and the COVID-19 pandemic severely impacted the growth patterns, stability, and resilience of the UK economy. As a result, the country is now grappling with significant economic challenges. Its national debt has escalated to about 100% of its GDP, labor productivity is lagging behind most G7 countries, and there are severe healthcare crises where millions of people are waiting for hospital treatment. In this video, we will explain how UK economy is dying and examine the factors that have led to its apparent collapse and loss of momentum. To begin with, let's first examine the dwindling growth patterns of the UK economy. The economy of United Kingdom is the sixth largest in the world and is dominated by a strong services sector and innovative industries. It has been growing sluggishly since 2010, following the global financial crisis. This slow growth trajectory was further intensified by the COVID-19 pandemic, which led to a significant decline in GDP in 2020. The slowdown of the UK's economic growth continued, with a mere 0.1% growth rate and a technical recession characterized by 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth in 2023. In 2024, the UK's economy stands about 1.8% higher than its level of late 2019, lagging behind most G7 countries. According to IMF, the UK economy is projected to grow at a 0.7% in 2024. However, the growth is expected to be constrained by weakness in productivity growth and limited scope for increasing employment opportunities for its citizens. The UK's sluggish economic growth is closely tied to its weak productivity that has plagued the country for decades. Productivity reflects how much output is produced for a given input. It is considered an important factor in determining living standards of population of a country. A major obstacle to the UK's economic growth over the past 14 years has been the country's persistently weak productivity growth. The UK's labour productivity has grown at a slower rate since the 2008 financial crisis, and the COVID-19 pandemic has further worsened this trend. This has limited the country's ability to efficiently produce goods and services, preventing it from reaching its full potential. Between 2010 and 2022, the annual average growth in UK GDP per hour worked was just 0.5%, which indicates a persistent productivity slowdown. In 2022, the UK ranked fourth among the G7 nations in terms of GDP per hour worked, and its productivity was around 16% below the US and Germany. The weak productivity growth in the UK is attributed to its low levels of capital investment, inadequate skills training programs, and chronic labor and skills shortages. The active participation of the labor force is considered a vital driver of economic growth, but the UK is currently grappling with the missing worker crisis, where millions of workers have opted out of the labor market. Between December 2023 and February 2024, the number of working-age people not in work and not looking for work increased to its highest level since 2012. In this quarter, about 20.6 million people aged 16 to 64 were economically inactive, which accounted for approximately 22% of the country's population. Moreover, the number of people who are inactive due to long-term sickness has increased to a record high of 7% of the working-age population. In the sphere of public finance, the United Kingdom is confronted with a significant fiscal challenge in the form of its rising national debt, which has reached its highest level since 1962. The current level of UK's debt is more than double what was seen from the 1980s through to the financial crisis of 2008. It has shown a consistent upward trend over the past few decades, surging from approximately 65% of GDP in 2010 to a notable 99% of GDP in 2024. This significant growth in the UK's public debt is largely attributed to the financial crisis of 2008, slow economic growth, and the fiscal deficit. All these factors necessitated increased borrowing to stabilize the economy. The COVID-19 pandemic further aggravated the issue, with borrowing reaching record highs to support emergency measures and stimulus packages for citizens. As a result, the UK's national debt now stands at over £2.7 trillion, sparking concerns about its long-term sustainability, interest payment burdens, and potential impacts on future generations. On the other hand, interest payments on the government's debt have become a significant burden on the UK's economy. In the financial year 2023 to 2024, the government spent £111 billion on debt interest, which surpassed its expenditure on education. This trend is expected to continue, with a projected £89 billion allocated for debt interest in the financial year 2024 to 25. Interest payments account for 7.3% of total public spending, equivalent to 3.2% of the UK's national income. The burden of high interest payments on the national debt is diverting funds away from essential public services like education, healthcare, and infrastructure development. As a result, the government's fiscal flexibility is reduced, making it more challenging to respond to future economic shocks. The UK is also grappling with one of the highest interest rates in its history. While higher interest rates boost returns on savings and help combat inflation, they also make borrowing more expensive, resulting in a decrease in consumer and business spending, investment, and overall economic growth. The UK has experienced a significant increase in inflation since 2021, which reached a staggering 11.1% in 2022. In response, the Bank of England raised interest rates from 0.1% in 2021 to 5.25% in 2023 to combat soaring inflation and stabilize the economy amidst post-Brexit uncertainty and global economic headwinds. In 2024, the UK is facing its highest interest rate in 16 years, with a benchmark rate of 5.25%. The UK's high interest rate has led to a significant decline in business spending, as companies are forced to reduce investments, delay expansions, and cut jobs. This has resulted in a ripple effect throughout the UK's economy, with reduced demand for goods and services, decreased sales, and lower revenue for businesses. The UK's economy has severely underperformed in the healthcare sector. The decline in the UK economy have pushed the National Health Service into a severe crisis, potentially the worst since its establishment in the 1940s. It is grappling with a multitude of challenges, including reduced funding, staffing shortages, and longer waiting times for treatments. According to a survey by the Office for National Statistics, the official number of people on waiting lists for treatment on the National Health Services stood at more than 7 million. That is a threefold increase since 2010. According to the Institute of Fiscal Studies, National Health Services spending after adjustment for inflation will be £166.2 billion in 2024-25, which is £2 billion, or 1.2%, lower than the £168.2 billion last financial year. The financial constraints have limited the National Health Service's ability to recruit and retain staff, which has resulted in decreased access to certain services and treatments in the UK. On the other hand, economic stress and uncertainty have also led to increased demand for healthcare services, which further strained resources and resulted in delayed or cancelled operations for millions of the UK's citizens. Moreover, the UK's departure from the European Union has had a profoundly negative impact on the British economy. As a result, UK's economy is experiencing a slowdown in growth, investment, and trade. A report reveals that the UK's economy has suffered a significant contraction of almost £140 billion due to the effects of Brexit, with London's economy alone shrinking by over £30 billion. The report further said that in 2023, the average Briton was nearly £2,000 worse off, while the average Londoner was nearly £3,400 worse off as a result of Brexit. The uncertainty surrounding the UK's exit from the EU led to a decline in business confidence, resulting in reduced investment and employment opportunities. Additionally, leaving the EU's single market and customs union created trade hurdles for the UK, resulting in extra costs and bureaucracy for businesses. Overall, Brexit has been estimated to have reduced the UK's GDP by around 5% versus other comparable countries. The cost of living in the UK continues to rise, with prices rising at an alarming rate, leading to a significant decrease in consumers' purchasing power. The UK's inflation rate surged to a staggering 11.1% in October 2022, marking a historic high inflation not seen since 1981. This was driven by global factors such as strong demand for consumer goods, supply chain disruptions, and soaring energy and fuel prices due to the Russia-Ukraine war. As a result, the cost of living increased sharply, which negatively affected the affordability of goods and services for millions of households. The rising cost of living has disproportionately affected the vulnerable segments of society, including low-income households, pensioners, and those living on fixed incomes. Although inflation has decreased to the Bank of England's target rate of 2% in May 2024, the affordability of goods and services for households is still affecting millions across the UK as wage growth remains stagnant. Moreover, the proportion of working-age adults owning homes has been declining, with young adults being the most severely impacted. According to the Institute for Fiscal Studies, from 2022 to 2023, 39% of 25 to 34-year-olds owned their homes, which is 20% lower than the peak of 59% seen in 2000. The UK is facing the worst immigration crisis in its history, with a significant increase in asylum seekers and illegal border crossings. It has long been a major political question in Britain, with many voters expressing concern that large influxes put excessive pressure on housing, education, and the state-run National Health Service. The net migration in UK, which reached 329,000 in 2015, has continued to rise. According to recent statistics, over 40,000 people have crossed the channel in small boats from France to the UK so far this year, putting a strain on the country's immigration system. The UK government has been criticised for its handling of the situation, with many calling for more effective measures to address the crisis. In conclusion, the UK has been grappling with various challenges, including rising national debt, stagnant wages, falling living standards, immigration challenges, and healthcare issues, among others. As the UK moves forward, it must address these pressing issues to ensure economic growth, social cohesion, and a brighter future for its citizens.